In a factory in southern China, a brand new worker rolls off the assembly line every 30 minutes. It stands 5 feet 9 inches tall. It walks on 2 legs. It has 2 arms, 2 hands, and a head. And it is not a person. It is a humanoid robot, a machine built to look and move like a human being. And China is now building them the way it builds cars and phones, by the thousand. While the rest of the world was still arguing about whether robots like this were even possible to sell, China quietly flipped the switch and started mass producing them. And this was no accident of the free market. It was a national mission, pushed from the very top under Xi Jinping. The West, frankly, was not ready. This is the story of how it happened, why China got there first, and what it means for the rest of us. If you enjoy videos about the technology quietly reshaping our world, hit like and subscribe so you never miss one. Now let us look at what China actually did, because the numbers are bigger than most people realize. Start with that factory. In March of 2026 in Guangdong province, a production line officially switched on that can build up to 10,000 humanoid robots a year, one finished machine every half hour. It is believed to be the first facility of its kind anywhere on Earth. Not a lab, not a prototype workshop, a real factory, churning out working machines at industrial scale. And it is not alone. A Chinese company called UBTech has begun mass-producing a full-size industrial humanoid called the Walker S2. It stands 1.76 meters tall, and here is the clever part. When its battery runs low, it walks itself over to a station, removes its own dead battery, and swaps in a fresh one with no human help. That means it can keep working around the clock. UBTech has already delivered its first batch, hundreds of units, and is aiming for 5,000 robots this year and 10,000 the next. Orders for its Walker robots have already passed 800 million yuan, more than $100 million. These are not toys. They are being sold to real factories to do real work. UBTech's machines have already been tested inside car plants, including factories run by global names, sorting parts, carrying components, and working alongside human staff on the line. The whole point of the self-swapping battery is that the robot never has to clock out. It tops itself up and keeps going, the kind of tireless shift no human could pull. That is the pitch to a factory boss, not science fiction, just a worker that does not sleep, does not quit, and gets cheaper every year. And this is just 2 companies. According to China's own Ministry of Industry, by 2025, the country already had more than 140 humanoid robot makers, who between them had released over 330 different robot models. New startups appear almost every few weeks. Even Xpeng, a company most people know as an electric car maker, has thrown itself into the race. Its chief executive said plainly this year that his personal mission is to reach mass production of humanoid robots, and the company is sitting on the equivalent of more than $6 billion in cash to pour into what it calls physical AI. When car makers start building robots, you know the ground has shifted, and the shift happened in plain sight. Just a year ago, these machines were mostly a show. In the summer of 2025, China held the World Humanoid Robot Games in Beijing, where robots literally boxed each other in a ring. And the videos racked up millions of views online. Critics rolled their eyes and called it a circus. But behind the showmanship, something serious was being built. The companies putting robots on stage were the same ones quietly building the factories. The spectacle was the marketing, and the assembly line was the real plan. By 2026, the circus act had turned into a manufacturing industry, and the rest of the world was still watching the highlight reels while China was already shipping product. So, how did China end up so far ahead? This is the part that matters most, and the answer leads straight back to Beijing. Years ago, the Chinese government, under Xi Jinping, made a decision the West never made. It declared humanoid robots a national priority, not something to leave to private companies and hope for the best, but a strategic goal for the entire country. China's Ministry of Industry put out formal guidance calling on the nation's factories to master the key technologies, what they called the brain, the cerebellum, and the limbs of these robots, and to make China the world's leader in the technology by 2027. And it didn't stop there. China's blueprint for the next 5 years, its economic plan running from 2026 through 2030, formally names this kind of robotics, what they call embodied intelligence, as a new engine of national growth. When a goal gets written into a country's 5-year plan, it stops being a wish and becomes a command that flows down through the entire system. That kind of top-down push does something powerful. It tells every factory, every investor, every university, and every parts supplier in the country to point in the same direction at the same time. China already dominates the world's supply of batteries, motors, and precision parts, the exact ingredients a humanoid robot is made of. So when the state said build robots, the whole machine of Chinese manufacturing was already in place to do it cheaply and fast. UBTech even estimates the cost of making these robots will fall 20 to 30% every single year. That is the same curve that once made Chinese phones and solar panels unbeatable on price, now pointed at robots. Now compare that to the West, and you start to see why the title of this video is fair. In the United States, the most famous humanoid robot is Tesla's Optimus. Elon Musk has said robots like it could one day be worth tens of trillions of dollars to his company. But as of 2026, Tesla has not sold a single Optimus commercially. It is still a promise. One industry expert put it bluntly, China is currently leading, while the United States is still in the early stages of even commercializing these machines. The American government has reportedly started preparing emergency measures, possibly a presidential order, just to help its robotics industry catch up. Read that again. The country that gave the world Silicon Valley is now drafting policy to avoid being left behind. That is not the natural order of things. That is a wake-up call. To understand why this is such an enormous deal, you have to understand what a humanoid robot really is, and why it's been the holy grail of machines for so long. We've had robots in factories for decades, but they are bolted to the floor and do one repetitive task: weld this, lift that. A humanoid robot is different because it is shaped like us. It can, in theory, walk into any workplace built for humans, a warehouse, a hospital, a kitchen, your home, and use the tools, doors, and stairs we already have without anyone rebuilding the room for it. One machine that can do many jobs in a world already designed for the human body. That is why the prize is so big. A bank called RBC estimates the global market for these robots could reach $9 trillion by the year 2050, and that China could account for more than 60% of it. 60% of a $9 trillion industry. That's the size of the bet China just placed. But here's where we have to be honest with you, because the truth matters more than the hype. These robots are real and they are being mass-produced, and that part is not exaggerated. But they are not yet the all-powerful androids from the movies. They still have real weaknesses. The biggest one is the battery. Most humanoid robots today can only run for 2 or 3 hours on a charge, not nearly enough for a serious factory shift, which is exactly why UBTech's self-swapping battery trick is such a clever workaround. The other weakness is the hands. A human hand is soft and forgiving and unbelievably dexterous. Robot hands are still stiff and clumsy by comparison, and they get stuck on delicate tasks we do not even think about. Engineers believe the real fix, a new kind of longer-lasting solid-state battery, will not arrive at mass scale until after 2027. And dexterity is its own mountain to climb, teaching a machine to handle a soft tomato or thread a cable the way your fingers do without thinking is one of the hardest problems in all of robotics. So no, these machines are not about to replace every worker tomorrow. What is happening is quieter and, in a way, more important. China has moved humanoid robots out of the laboratory and onto the factory floor, and it is the first country to do it at scale. The starting gun is fired, and China got the cleanest jump. So where does this go from here? The honest answer is that 2026 is the year the experiment becomes an industry. Chinese executives openly call this the pivotal year for turning these robots from a spectacle into a genuine necessity for certain jobs, the dirty, dangerous, repetitive work that is hard to staff. A major Wall Street analysis by the bank Citi predicts global humanoid robot production will at least double this year compared to last, and that revenue for the Chinese companies supplying the parts could more than double on the back of it. In other words, even the companies that just make the motors, joints, and sensors are about to see explosive growth, because China owns so much of that supply chain. As the price keeps falling and the batteries keep improving, the robots will spread first across factories, then warehouses, then logistics, and eventually toward homes, though that last step is still years away. The countries that lead in building them will not just sell robots, they will control the technology that reshapes how everything else gets made. And right now, while the West is still writing memos about how to compete, China has the factories running, the supply chain locked down, the government fully behind it, and a head start measured not in plans but in machines already walking out the door. The race for the robot workforce of the century has begun, and China did not wait for anyone's permission to take the lead.